Welcome online, ladies and gentlemen. We're just setting up for today. Alrighty, we are live streaming. Welcome online, ladies and gentlemen. We're just setting up for today's session. As you join us, do us a favor, type in exactly where you're watching us from around the world. My name is Michael Firth, one of the founding Field Advisory Board members and crowns with the company. It's my pleasure to be your MC today. We're going to give you a timer, which will give you a few seconds to encourage everybody that you have coming on not to miss this session with our founder. So here we go. Okay, welcome online, ladies and gentlemen. If you've joined us for the first time and you don't speak fluent English, fret not. We are live streaming on YouTube where you can play back with captions, closed captions, and there are closed captions in the Zoom room. So have a quick listen to this.
Por favor, vaya a la parte inferior de la pantalla en Zoom o YouTube y haga clic en subtítulos para leer en español.
Kérlek, menj a képernyő aljára, a Zoomon vagy a YouTube-on, a Closed Caption részre, és ott el tudod olvasni magyarul a feliratot.
Silakan klik di layar bawah pada Zoom atau YouTube dan klik caption untuk membaca dalam bahasa Indonesia.
Pour les sous-titres en français, veuillez cliquer au bas de votre écran Zoom ou YouTube sur CC ou Closed Captions.
Zoom または YouTube の画面の下部に移動し、字幕をクリックして日本語で読んでください。
請到屏幕底部點閱隱藏字幕以閱讀中文.
Παρακαλώ πηγαίνετε στο κάτω μέρος της οθόνης, στο Zoom ή στο YouTube και κάντε κλικ στους υπότιτλους για να τα διαβάσετε στα ελληνικά.
請到屏幕底部點擊隱藏字幕以閱讀中文.
אנא עברו לתחתית המסך בזום וביוטיוב ולחצו על תרגום לכתוביות בעברית.
Proszę zejść na dół ekranu na Zoomie lub YouTubie i kliknąć napisy, żeby przeczytać po polsku.
Beautiful. Welcome online, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Michael Firth, one of the founding Field Advisory Board members and crowns with the company. It's my pleasure today to be your MC for this event. And what I love about this technology and Neumi is we're in 74 countries around the world, and I can see people who've just logged on in the Zoom rooms telling us from Las Vegas, from Canada, from Charlestown, what have we got? Canada again, Chicago, very windy city, Jamaica, and Florida. I'm from Sunshine Coast, Australia. We've got Louisiana. I know we've got some Indonesians and some Aussies on as well. So welcome to today's session. Now, for those that don't know, our founder is a gentleman by the name of Steve Scott. Now, Steve's been a beautiful friend of mine now for about 17 years. I met Steve when he was in the pioneering research space with a glutathione supplement about 17 years ago. And we stayed great friends. And then Steve said he had the biggest breakthrough of his entire life and wanted to get that to market. And of course, we connected and the rest is history. Neumi is now in 74 countries with a couple of 100,000 members around the world and growing like wildfire. If you don't know, Steve Scott was also one of the most successful people in direct response television, having launched the Total Gym, which you probably remember with Christy Brinkley and Chuck Norris, amongst many of his successes, turning over about $4 billion. So today we're here to get up close and personal, get to know our founder and also find out about our amazing breakthrough. So with that, I'll hand you to Steve Scott. Over to you, Steve.
Thank you, Michael. And welcome from not so sunny Northern California. My wife and I are here for the wedding of the daughter of one of Shannon's cousins. And so she's getting married here at a place called Carmel by the Sea, which is a beautiful place. In fact, if you remember the actor Clint Eastwood, and hopefully you do, he was mayor of what did I just say? Carmel by the Sea. I don't know, maybe a decade ago, 2 decades ago. And he, the town was already famous. We're right near the Pebble Beach Country Club, where there is a huge tournament every year. It's also where they have classic cars. Actually, there's every August, thousands of people flood to Pebble Beach, not for the golf, but to see these cars, multi-million-dollar cars, and they have auctions and they all sorts of neat things. And we came to that one year because Shannon's cousin collects cars and has a barn on his ranch. And last count, there were about 28 cars in that barn. So anyway, that's where I am today. And we just got in. So everything's a little messy and I don't have my normal lighting magic. Let's see. You know what I could do? I could blur. Uh-oh, here we go. Blur my background. There. Hey, that's better. I like that better because we're in a hotel here and hotels aren't always the best sets. Anyway, welcome. And we're excited. For those of you that don't know, my background was television. I always was snooping around the world looking for products or services that were truly breakthrough. By a breakthrough is a product that can do something that nothing else in the world can do as effectively or efficiently. First product was a skincare product back in 1976. My partner had $5,000 and I had a vision for something I was really excited about. And 5 months later, our little company hit sales of about $1 million a week. And that's 1976 when $1 million was a lot of money. It was actually gasoline in the United States at the time was about 39 cents a gallon. A new car typically was around $15,000, $16,000. A new house was typically around $150,000 to $200,000. And we were blessed in that we were seeing the kinds of results that we saw. That was our first product. And then that was actually with Pat Boone and his daughter, Debbie, before she had her big song, You Light Up My Life. And a year into it, she had that song come out. And that was, of course, was a big hit. Then we went to other products. We had all sorts of products. We had an educational product called Where There's a Will, There's an A. And our spokespersons on that were Michael Landon from Little House on the Prairie and Bonanza and Highway to Heaven, and also John Ritter, who was a primetime television star here in the United States. And that was a video seminar that could take a D student or even a failing student and turn them into an A and B student overnight. I mean, really, it happened to my daughter. She was 15 years old, and I took a little tape into her room, and I said, I want you to listen to this. She said, what is it? I said, it's going to teach you how to learn more effectively and give you better grades. She said, Dad, when are you going to learn that I am an athlete and a musician? I am not a student. And I said, when are you going to learn that I'm a parent? You don't have a choice. You can stay in your room till you've watched this. It's 3.5 hours, and I'll see you after you've seen it. Well, she comes down from her room about 3.5 hours later, and she said, I'll never get another B on a term paper. And I said, Carol, how can you say that? And she said, because I know what they want now. And sure enough, she went to the honor roll. She had really been kicked off cheerleading team because of her bad grades. She went from a 1.4 on a 4.0 scale to a 1.9 to a 3.4. And she ended up going to college, graduated with honors, and then she went to seminary to get a degree in counseling, and she got her master's degree in counseling. So she was a student. She just didn't know it because nobody had ever really taught her how to learn. They taught her different academic things, but they had never really taught her how she could really learn and recall and take tests and all the other things. And so that was a breakthrough. Millions and millions of households ended up buying those tapes and videotapes. And kids that would have never got into college got into college. Kids that would have never graduated from college graduated from college. In fact, you have seen the ultimate results of this. I'll tell you why. One of the students was a guy who was he was special teams captain at the University of Maryland. And their football coach, John Baxter, had made the whole team take out about 20 minutes every day. And as a group, they watched Where There's a Will, There's an A. And in that session, the professor who presents it said, if you want to be an entrepreneur, don't wait till you graduate, become one right now and while you're in school. And so Coach Baxter said to all the football players, he said, how many of you want to be entrepreneurs? Only 5 or 6 hands went up. And he said, let me put it this way. There's only 4 or 5 of you that will be invited to play professional football, and probably you won't make it. The ones who do make it, their career will only last 3 to 4 years, 5 years at the most. What are you going to do then? Or you could own your own business. Well, then every hand went up. Everybody wanted to own their own business. And he said, okay, in 3 weeks, I want everybody to present what you're going to do here in college, what kind of business you're going to try to launch. And you can tell the rest of the guys in our meetings after that. Well, his special teams captain, a guy named Kevin Plank, came up to him and said, Coach Baxter, I don't want to tell the rest of the team what I'm doing because they're my market. And John said, really? And he goes, oh, yeah. He says, you know, I make my T-shirts, my undershirts, out of my sister's slips. And they keep me cooler in the summer, warmer in the winter. They're so much better than cotton. And so I've gotten all the sizes from the equipment room for each player. And I'm going to make 3 shirts. I'm going to sell everybody. I'm going to give one away to everybody. Once they practice in it just one time, they're going to say, oh my gosh, I want more. And so I'll have 2 more that I can sell them right away. And if it works, when I graduate in the spring, I'll go do that at other schools as well. And John said, well, Kevin, that's a great idea, but you can't call your company My Sister's Slips. He said, no, Coach, I think I've got a good name. And John Baxter said, what are you going to call it? He said, I'm going to call it Under Armour. Now, have you ever seen Under Armour? Have you ever seen their little logo on baseball caps or shirts or anything? I mean, they're all over every place I go. I mean, every country, every cruise ship, and you know, we're in a lot of countries right now, and I always see people wearing Under Armour apparel. And here's the cool thing. You see, you can launch a business that only helps you. That's not a legacy business. That's just one that, you know, puts food on the table, and there's nothing wrong with that. But think about having a business where you actually create a legacy, where you impact the lives of people you know, your friends, your relatives. You have a breakthrough product that'll do that. And then even imagine impacting people around the world. That would be a legacy business. And of course, Kevin Plank had a legacy business. He ended up selling billions of dollars worth of branded clothing. But think of all the people that he's employed. He employs them all over the world. That's a legacy. Think of people he's helped out in so many other ways. So my goal for my first 35 years in business, once we started our company, was to come up with products that made a difference, breakthrough products. And a breakthrough, like I said, is something that can do something that nothing else in the world can do as effectively or efficiently. One day, an investment banker called me. This was back in 2006. And he said, Steve, I have looked at your bio. I understand how you work. You're always looking for breakthroughs. I want to introduce you to the greatest breakthrough you'll ever discover in your lifetime. And, you know, I didn't want to be rude, but I didn't believe him. And so I said, well, what kind of breakthrough is it? And he said, well, I can't really explain it, but the doctor who created it can tell you all about it. So he put me in touch with this doctor who was also an instructor with the Mayo organization, Mayo Graduate School of Medicine. And he was board certified, I was told, in 3 disciplines: oncology, hematology, and immunology. And so I looked at his resume, and his resume had over 100 published papers that he had authored. Okay, so that's pretty good. So I met with the guy, and he introduced me to a word that not only changed me personally, but it changed the whole direction of my life. And it's a word that, you know, the only reason I'm here right now is because of this word. And the word was the name of a molecule. And the molecule is called glutathione. It's a tripeptide. That means it's made up of 3 amino acids. And those amino acids created actually in the cells. And it's manufactured through a 100-step sequential step electrochemical process where it takes these 3 amino acids, cysteine, glycine, and glutamic acid, and basically works them together to where they're one compound called glutathione. Now, glutathione, as it turns out, is manufactured by every cell in your body. That's the good news. It performs over 400 functions that we know about. More good news. It's the most studied molecule in all of medicinal science. Right now, over 192,000 published studies. And if you took every other antioxidant, the big ones like vitamin C, vitamin E, CoQ10, superoxide dismutase, catalase, vitamin A, and added all the studies on all of those together, you would not equal the number of studies that have been done on glutathione. And there's about 1,000 new studies every 2 to 3 months that are published. Why is it so studied by medicinal scientists? The answer is it provides, glutathione is really the gateway to just about everything you experience in life. Mentally, physically, emotionally, it impacts everything. In fact, without glutathione, there'd be no life on Earth. No plants, no trees, no fish, birds, people, nothing. We'd have that beautiful blue atmosphere that I'm looking at through the window right now. And but we wouldn't have any life. I wouldn't see the green trees on the hills here. Wouldn't see birds flying around. Wouldn't hear them chirping in the morning. All of that changes because of that molecule, glutathione. Now, you've heard the good news. The bad news is in our human life and in animal life, glutathione declines as we age. The production levels go down. And unfortunately, the things that it protects us from don't go down. They actually go up as we age. So they're coming against us, and you'll see that in a minute. While the glutathione, which is our first line of defense against just about everything bad, is going down as we age. Glutathione declines at the rate between 8 and 15% per decade. Now, I'll be 77 in 2 months. I'm not going to give you the day because I know you'd send me a card and we wouldn't be able to handle it. But in 2 months, I'll be 77 years old. According to the charts, I should have 60% less glutathione now than I had at the age of 20. 60% less. So I had this much, and now I've only got about that much that's manufactured every day in my cells. Now, what does glutathione do? Let's look at a few of the things it does right now, because that'll get you excited when you realize it's doing the same thing in you that it's doing in me. And number one, without glutathione, there'd be no oxygen transfer. So you'd take that nice deep breath, fill up those lungs with air, but the oxygen wouldn't get past the lungs. It would never be picked up by the bloodstream. Why? Because hemoglobin, the red blood cell, when it's manufactured, it has iron deposits. And those iron deposits can carry a charge of a +2 or a +3. If it's +3, for it to bind to oxygen, that has to be reduced to a +2. or it can't bind to oxygen, and we all die real quickly. Fortunately, there is one molecule in life that can reduce the charge from a +3 to a +2 so that hemoglobin can bind to oxygen. And that molecule is glutathione. So that's one of 400 functions it performs. What else? Well, how about your immune system? We learned during the pandemic a couple years ago that people with very robust immune systems, very responsive and able to produce lots of T cells and B cells, which are the assassins of the immune system, they may have gotten sick, but they didn't die. On the other hand, people with poor immune systems got even sicker, took longer to recover, or they died. And there's been lots of studies on this. In fact, one is titled Low Levels of Endogenous Glutathione as the Cause of Severe Symptoms and Death in COVID-19 Patients. Now, what does it mean by endogenous levels? That's what your cells make. And when you have their production levels are low, that became the cause of the most severe symptoms of COVID and death. Okay, now that article is available. It was published by the American Journal of Infectious Diseases in May of 2020. So you can look it up. And it was very brilliant by a Russian scientist. And then there's been other studies that have verified and validated all of his findings. Okay, so glutathione is critical to the immune system. When you have low levels, your T cells, the assassins, and the B cells, which are also assassins, they reproduce in low levels, they reproduce slowly, while the bacteria or viruses are reproducing rapidly. So guess who wins? The bacteria and viruses. Guess who lose? You and I do. Okay, now on the other hand, when glutathione levels are high, T cells and B cells reproduce radically, fast, much faster, explosively even. And so that's a big deal. How you get sick, do other people around you get sick and you get sick right along with them, or do you not get sick? Part of that is your T cells and your immune response. How long does it take to recover? Do you recover quickly or slowly? Once again, T cells, the faster they reproduce, typically, the faster you recover from those things. And that reproduction rate is highly impacted by the available glutathione. So that's why during the pandemic, old people died by the millions, and young people and children almost didn't die. They were pretty safe because their T cells and B cells, their immune system was still responsive unless they had a childhood disease state such as asthma or diabetes or so on. So, okay, so glutathione highly impacts how quickly your immune system can reproduce the T cells and B cells, how fast they can reproduce in response to a bacterial or viral insult. That's another. Okay, let's look at a third one. I mean, we got 400 of them. We're not going to look at all 400 right now. But another one is, which one do we want to cover first? Antioxidants. Let's go ahead and let's talk about oxidative stress. Every cell in your body is attacked 20,000 times a day by free radicals. Now you have 5 trillion cells and you say, how many free radicals can there be? Guess what? Free radicals are, among other things, you have free radicals that invade our body, but you all through chemicals, what we breathe, what we eat, what we drink, but also more of those free radicals are actually created in the metabolic process of the cells. Actually, inside the cell is creating oxidative stress or free radicals that result from that oxidative stress. Now, let's just get a picture of this. Michael, if you can bring up the picture of 20,000. Okay, that's 20,000 people in an arena. Picture yourself, you're down on the floor, right in the middle, and the announcer says, we're going to give $1 million tonight to everybody that can just give that guy in the center floor one blow. It doesn't even have to be hard. Just smack him in the face, hit him in the chest, doesn't matter. But every one of you that can do that without restriction, you're going to get $1 million. Guess what? You'd have 20,000 people against one. Well, that's what your cells go through every single day. Now, what do they go through in 5 days? Every cell gets attacked by that many, by 100,000 free radicals per day, every day. Okay, well, what is nature or our body? I like to say, what did God do about this? The answer is antioxidants. Now, an antioxidant, a free radical, is a scavenger. It wants to steal an electron from a healthy cell. And when it is successful and steals that electron, it creates oxidative stress, more oxygen than the cell can process, which is bad news. It's like oxygen creates rust, right? And so the oxygen, there's too much oxygen, and that creates oxidative stress, which creates inflammation in the cell. And not only do you get the inflammation, you get an accelerated aging. So oxidative stress, and then guess what happens? That oxidative stress creates more free radicals, which create more oxidative stress, which creates more free radicals, and so on. It's a vicious cycle. Well, glutathione can interrupt that cycle. Now, there's a number of antioxidants. There's a whole spectrum of free radicals. They have different sources. Some are sourced from the oxygen in our body, some from hydrogen in our body, some from the nitrogen in our body, as an example. They have different chemical compositions, different structures. And all antioxidants except glutathione are monofocused. So take vitamin E. Vitamin E can take out that bad boy, but it leaves all of these guys. Vitamin C takes out that one, and it leaves all of these. CoQ10, superoxide dismutase, catalase. They can each take out one type, but they're totally worthless against all the others. Glutathione is called the master antioxidant, not only because it's the most abundant in your body, but because it can sequester, capture, neutralize all types of free radicals, regardless of their source, their structure, or their chemical composition. Now, we have free radicals today that our grandparents and even our parents didn't have to deal with. For example, those nice 5G towers that operate my phone over here, or at least get the signals to my phone, those microwaves actually enter my body. And when they react with the nitrogen in my body, it creates a free radical called peroxynitrite. Peroxynitrite lives 1 billion times longer than oxygen-based free radicals, so long it can actually transfer from one cell to another cell. And guess what it does? It attacks the mitochondrial DNA. Why is that important to know? Because when that mitochondrial DNA breaks, the cell is at high risk for mutating and multiplying cancer. Now, free radicals aren't the primary breaker of the mitochondrial DNA. It's one that can break the mitochondrial DNA. But what else do we have? We have the onslaught of chemicals. Every person on this call has at least 200 industrial chemicals in your body right now. We only say 200 because the CDC measured a population of 2,000 people for 217 industrial chemicals, and every single person had all 217. What would have happened if they had tried to measure 500? Because there's over 80,000 in the environment. They would have probably found all 500 in people. Well, those chemicals that are in our cell, they are the primary attacker of the mitochondrial DNA. They are the main culprit for breaking. About 95% of the breakage of the mitochondrial DNA takes place from the chemical load in the cell. Well, guess what glutathione is? Glutathione is the detoxifier of the cell. It has a sticky sulfhydryl arm, and that sticks to the chemical like the spider traps stick to the spider. You know, we have those in our house, and every now and then we'll see one, and sure enough, there'll be 3 or 4 spiders stuck, and they'll be dead. Well, guess what? This sulfhydryl arm in glutathione sticks to the chemical and gets it out of the cell. So that's really critical. And in fact, a world-renowned microbiologist addressing a cancer symposium said, if we really want to prevent cancer, we must find ways to raise glutathione in the cell. And then he said, let me explain. 95% of all cancers gain traction in the human body when the mitochondrial DNA is broken. Most of the breakage, 95% of the breakage, comes from the chemical load in the cell. Glutathione is the detoxifier, so if we can raise glutathione levels, we can lower the chemical load in the cell and prolong the life and the integrity of the mitochondrial DNA. That name, if you want to look it up, was Dean Jones. The only reason I remember, I actually worked with an actor one time. One of my celebrities was a movie and television star named Dean Jones. So I can easily remember the microbiologist. Anyway, so glutathione increases or can interrupt the cycle of oxidative stress. Oxidative stress puts inflammation in the cell, and it accelerates the aging of the cell. It basically opens the gateway, according to some studies, one of which is brilliant, over 600 citations, shows that it's the lower glutathione levels open the door to the onset and add to the progression of nearly all disease states. In fact, Dr. Mehmet Oz, a Harvard heart surgeon who had a television show here in the United States, opened one show years ago. He said, glutathione, it's the most important antioxidant you've never heard of. It's what protects you, helps protect you from the diseases you fear the most. And then he and a guy named David Katz talked about it for the next hour. David was the head of disease prevention for Yale University here in the United States. Well, so what's the problem? Well, our glutathione levels are declining, which means we open the gateway to all those diseases as we age. And, you know, what are we going to do? Let's all go out and buy glutathione capsules, right? Wrong. You can buy them at any health food store. Problem is, when glutathione hits the stomach, if it's not protected, it hits the stomach and it breaks. It's real fragile, and that sulfhydryl arm that we talk about, that's part of the cysteine molecule, that's part of the glutathione molecule, breaks right off. And your cells won't accept a broken molecule, so you don't get it. That's the bad news. So what do? Well, some manufacturers go ahead and let's see if I can find something here. Let's take, okay, let's take this. This is my wife's. Okay, so we'll say that's a glutathione molecule. And so now they wrap it in a fat called a lipid or a liposome. Looks good. Problem is the porosity in the cell is only 10 nanometers. Now, if we could get liposomal glutathione under 55 nanometers, I would have saved millions of dollars personally. The University of, well, I won't tell you the name of the school, but our state university here has had a nano department for 40 years. And I said, here's how much glutathione I want you to nano size and some other things that are cofactors. They did it, they got it back to me, and it was 0% effective, did absolutely nothing. They increased it by tenfold, did nothing. Why? Because your cells are only 100 nanometers in diameter. Now, put it in perspective, one strand of hair is 100,000 nanometers. A sheet of typing paper is 80,000 nanometers. Your cells average 100 nanometers. And the pore inside the cell, we'll pretend like this lid here. If I can get it off. There we go. Okay, so we'll pretend this is a cell, and that's 100 nanometers, but the little pore inside is only 10 nanometers. Well, when they wrap a liposome, they put a liposome around a molecule. Now it's over 55 nanometers. It cannot get in the cell. So instead, it lays on top of the cell, and the hope is there'll be enough energy forced. You have to have energy to force the diffusion, but that's called what's it called? Forced diffusion into the membrane of the cell. Not real efficient. It's like riding a bicycle uphill in high gear. So you're pedaling real fast and you're going real slow. Well, what would happen if we could actually not wrap it in a liposome and not be destroyed by the stomach and have it come in under 10 nanometers? Well, then it can be right there. Direct infusion can get right into that cell. See, where's our cell? Can get right into the cell. Bingo, there it is. Okay, so that's direct infusion. That's what we have, but we don't go through the stomach. We have found a way to encapsulate with water instead of lipids. Now that won't protect it through the stomach, but it lets us get the particle size small enough that as you swish it like a mouthwash and hold it under your tongue, put your contacts in, and it goes right into your bloodstream through your mucosa inside your in the interior of your cheeks and sublingually through the venous cavity. So it's mucal absorption, gets into the bloodstream, one pass of circulation, and it empties out into your cells. Is that so cool? So we have athletes that will use it 5 minutes before a competition or a workout, and boom, they end up having far better endurance, physical endurance and stamina, better mental focus and mental stamina, and they actually have higher muscle output. We've done some testing on that. It also, glutathione creates more lean muscle. Now, I knew we actually developed this whole thing in 2018, and I knew if we really had what we thought we had, it would make a huge difference with athletes. So I sent some to this guy. Michael, if you could pull up Bill Gillespie. Bill was strength and conditioning coach for an American football team called the Seattle Seahawks. Then he went to Liberty University, his alma mater, and was their strength and conditioning coach of their football team. Well, Bill was an amateur weightlifter, and let's go to his chart. This is always fun. So in 2008, Bill was 49 years old, and he competes as an amateur, so he's always drug tested, but he set the amateur world record for the bench press at 804 pounds. And Michael, I can't have access to my phone. I don't know how many kilos that is. Oops, you're okay. Well, in the next 10 years, it went down. Loss of lean muscle. Bill told me he could only work out, or he could only lift heavy once a week, and he had been lifting heavy 4 times a week. And his weightlift went, his bench press went from 704 pounds or 804 pounds down to around 725. I gave him the product, told him how to use it, and watch what happened. Here's the new slide. A little slow on the uptake here. There you go. And he went all the way. By the time he was 62, from 59 to 62, his bench press went to 1,129 pounds, That's 512 kilos if you're not in the United States. And that's 40% more weight than he had lifted 13 years earlier in his prime. How do you lift 40% more weight to set a new world record when you're 62 years old? The answer is, back to me, reduce oxidative stress. When you lower oxidative stress and when you get more glutathione in the body, you get more lean muscle, you have less inflammation. All of a sudden, Bill was finding himself able to lift heavy again 4 times a week, only instead of sets and reps of 400 and 500 pounds, he was doing sets and reps of 700 pounds, 800 pounds. And well, one of our athletes was an endurance athlete, and she was in a 100-mile bike race. And she fell at mile 37. She went end over end, hit the pavement so hard it knocked her out, broke her helmet. She ended up in the hospital for 4 days. And her face was just shredded. And the plastic surgeon said it would take 5 weeks to clear. And then she'd have to wait 60 days and come in for a regimen of plastic surgery. Well, guess what? She gets home on Tuesday night. The accident was Saturday. And she had been swishing. She was breaking all of her records, as athletes often do. And she thought, hey, maybe if I apply some topically to my face, to my wounds and stuff, maybe they'll heal faster. So she poured some on a cotton ball, applied it on Tuesday night, then did the same thing 3 times on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. By Sunday, her face was completely clear, not a mark, not a scar. Plastic surgeon had never seen anything like it. And when I saw it, I thought, we may have the world's greatest skincare program or skincare product. Now, I've owned 5 cosmetic companies with my partners in television. We had people like Cher, Kathy Lee Gifford, Ali McGraw, Lisa Hartman, Meredith Baxter Burney, and on as celebrities. And I loved makeup. We had makeup. I loved hair care. We had great hair care. But I didn't like skincare, even though we sold it, because you couldn't get good before and afters. You just couldn't, even if your product was terrific. Well, when I saw this with this athlete, I thought, wow, who knows? So I sent some out in spray bottles to a few people and said, spray your face 5 times a day. It's just like a spritzer. I mean, it was just a mist. And do that 5 times a day. Can you zoom in on that, Michael? There we go. And this was the first picture that came back to me. It came back 7 weeks later, no filter on this, no change lining. And I've known this person. At the time, I had known him for about 14 years, and she's a farmer, works on a farm, lives on a farm, and didn't use laser, Botox, anything. And look at the difference. It was tighter, smoother, brighter, and younger looking. I was in shock. So was she. That was just 7 weeks. Well, we went ahead and put it into a spray. And when we launched Neumi, we offered that product as well, and asked everybody to take their before and afters, usually 8 weeks apart, and look what came back to us. Well, before we launched, I did this with my hand. I was only 71 here, and I sprayed my right hand about 4 to 5 times a day, and I didn't spray my left hand. Now, if you can't see the difference, please see your eye doctor right away, because it's pretty marked. Well, let's look at a few that we've collected since. This is one of our Neumi family members. She's at 84, and look at the difference. Look at her neck, her chin, her mouth. Honestly, she looks like she's taken 20 or 30 years off of her face. And that was in 4 weeks. Next. This is another lady. She's, in fact, her daughter has our grease, has a big part of our grease team under her. And this is her mother. She was 84 also. And she's, in her words, not mine, she had old lady legs, but she sprayed them. And she also used swish. She swished throughout the day and the weeks. In 10 weeks, look at the difference. There's nothing else in the world that'll do that. Next. This was an esthetician in Miami, Florida. She said, Steve, I can't wait 8 weeks. Look what it did in 8 days. Where did my pores go? Look how smooth, bright, tighter. Look at the lift it gave my eye. There's nothing. She said, I've been in skincare my whole adult life. There's nothing like this. We said, we know. Next, here's a 60-year-old. Now that was 1 month. That's kind of like the first one we showed, but look what happened after 6 months. Now we met her, she came into our office and we met her at that 6-month stage. And we thought she was probably maybe 42, 45 at the most, 60 years old. Look at the difference. Okay, next. Okay, this man's 67. Once again, brighter. You can see the brightening effect, tighter, younger looking, smoother looking. So yes, it works for men too. And that was 6 weeks. Next, let's go to the next one. That's dehydration actually. Okay, this lady, she's young, but look, her pores, the appearance really changed. Her face looks much smoother. The skin tone is even, which is really amazing. And in 10 days, next. This was 3 weeks. And she was 80 at the time. Next. Okay, she's 65, but she had been a smoker, and that of course damages the skin pretty severely. But look, that was 8 weeks. Here you have 6 days. Look at the difference. Next. And this lady's in Nigeria. Her daughter is a doctor. She brought her the product, and in 4 weeks, what a difference. What a difference. Next. Okay, sun damage in Australia. Michael knows a lot about that. Next. Okay, this guy I love. He's 94 years old. And he said, I love the new look, but as much as I love the new look, I love that I feel more like the guy on the right instead of the guy on the left. That's pretty amazing. So that's our 94. And here, this lady's in Hungary. I had the joy of going to Hungary about 1.5 years ago. Ryan and I went, and look at her. She's 87. And that was in 7 weeks. We asked her how often she sprayed her face. She said, I did what you said. Sprayed it 4 to 5 times a day for 7 weeks. Look at that. Honestly, it looks like she's taken at least 20 years off of her face. Okay, back to me. Oh, there you go. That he's was 85. Now, why do we show you those? Not only do we have the world's best skincare, but the same biochemical activity that glutathione is producing in the skin, it's producing throughout your body with your other organs. So yes, glutathione is by far the most powerful antioxidant. By reducing oxidative stress, it is seems to be slowing down accelerated aging. And I vote for that. I'll be 77, like I said, in a couple weeks. And my kids want me to be around at least to 94. That's the target they've given me. And so it's important to me that I'm on glutathione, and I love it. You'll love it too. Now I have something I'm going to let out at this. We have made a discovery, and it is amazing. We've made a change in the ratio of glutathione to one of its cofactors. And in making that change in the ratio, and we're not out there yet, it'll be automatically incorporated into your auto ship when we build up our inventories. And it's going to take us a few months to build up our inventories, but it's going to be automatic. And guess what we seem to have done? Both on paper as well as in practicality, tripling the half-life of our glutathione. Now that's a big deal, because the half-life of glutathione, once it gets in your cell, whether it's through an IV or some other way, typically is 90 minutes. It averages, the range is from 10 minutes, very few cells, more of a range actually, an hour to 4 hours. But overall, body-wise, it's a 90-minute half-life. we, in changing this, and our chief innovative officer, when he did this and we started looking at it and then we tested it, woohoo! I'm telling you, what a difference. And that's going to be in your product. And no, we're not going to be raising the price of the product when we do that, but you'll know it when we do, because it's going to be longer lasting and you're going to feel it. Now, why is that important? Listen, glutathione is utilized every single moment of the day to perform any of its 400 functions based on the programming in the cell and the DNA. Now, we found out something else, and with this, we're going to close. See, we have a medical board that serves for free. And they serve for free because they've seen radical results like this. Okay, I'm going to unblur my background right now. And then we're almost done. Let's see. There we go. This is part of our medical board right here. And they serve for free because they've seen the amazing results. She's a cardiologist. And she sends me stuff that is just unbelievable. But she was one of the, she graduated close to #1 at, I think it was Texas Heart Institute. She's preventive cardiology. I was introduced to her by this guy who was on the Stanford Heart Transplant team. He's brought over 200 therapies to the world for both cancer treatment and cardiovascular treatment. Brilliant guy. These guys, he's Harvard, he's Mayo Clinic, he's Harvard. Not lightweights at all. This guy here, I have a big giant crush on, and I had the joy of being with him when I was in Greece. He is a cellular scientist, molecular scientist, and his name is Sotiris Nikolopoulos. His postdoctorate, all of his education was in the US, but his postdoctorate was at Sloan Kettering, Memorial Sloan Kettering, for 6 years. One of the best cancer research centers in the world. And he has the ability to look at gene expression in real time. And he can tell if it's overexpressing, underexpressing, or if it's right where it needs to be in that moderate area. And he has seen outcomes with our product. I'm telling you, so huge. In fact, as I started repeating back to him, he said, "Oh no, Steve, it's so much bigger than that. It's bigger than you can even imagine what this is doing." Now he thinks we are impacting over 1,000 genes. What he typically measures are the pro-inflammatory genes, like the several of the interleukin genes, tumor necrosis factor alpha, and on and on. And when he puts a client on our product, he not only sees changes in their life, he sees changes in genetic expression. Now, what are we allowed to say? We're allowed to say that we contribute to, or we support, normal gene expression in the human body. We support it, just like we support the immune system and other factors. Now, this guy just texted me today. Woohoo! He's new to our board. Gareth Morris Stiff. His education was UK, but he was 30 years plus at the Cleveland Clinic, one of America's primo institutions, and he was a liver surgeon. And then he decided, after years of cutting livers out, he said, "I want to prevent cancer. I want to prevent liver disease. I want to cure stuff. And I don't cure it or prevent it by cutting it out." And so he went ahead, got another PhD added to his MD. And then I think he's got another one, and now he's got a 4th doctorate on the way. And Dr. Nikolopoulos, when I was in Greece, he and I spent about an hour on the phone with Gareth. And when he saw what our product was doing and saw what Dr. Nikolopoulos could measure in real time, he literally threw his arms up. We were on Zoom. He throws his arms in. He says, count me in. I want to be in this. Why? Because we are changing lives, folks. Now, we talked earlier about a legacy business. Do you know there's a lady in Canada that was joined our Neumi family through another lady in the United States? Now, that lady in the United States just recruited this one lady, and guess what happened? That lady ended up reaching out to over 4,000 other people that joined our Neumi family on every continent. So the person in the United States, by reaching one, really reached the whole world. Didn't get into Antarctica. That's the only continent they're not on. But the point is this: you don't know what's going to happen as you share this with your friends, your neighbors. You're going to see plenty of people in need, even an athlete, anybody that works out. Man, they take it 5 minutes before the workout, 5 minutes before the competition, immediately after the workout and after the competition. They're like a new person. They recover so much faster. They see the improvements right away. Now, if you do work out, you don't take it 3 hours before. Why? Half-life, 90 minutes. Now, as we roll into this coming year and you begin to get it's same formula, all we've done is we've changed a ratio. And that ratio triples our half-life, threefold increase in our half-life. So that's going to be amazing. That's what I'm on because I get it straight from the lab. But when we get it produced, it'll be rolled right into your auto ship automatically. So anyway, that's what we have. A lot of good news. I'm excited about the future. We have our birthday party coming up the week of July 7th. And this time it's going to be virtual. So you can be a part of every session that we have. And we really are lining up some great sessions. We've already lined up some. We're going to line up some more, a couple of them with our doctors. I'm going to try to get Dr. Nikolopoulos and a few others on. But it's going to be great. And we hope you'll join us and bring people to that. And from that, we explode. By the way, we have two new diamonds in Poland. And I just sent out a congratulations to them. I've been traveling so much, I didn't have a chance to get to it till today. But just sent them out. They'll be published on Facebook and so on when they're after they're edited. And but two of them from Poland, two women in Poland, Kat and Marius. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Michael. Not too good with the pronunciations. Old dogs have a hard time learning new tricks, and names are always tough for me. You know, some are nice and easy. Like there's a person called Zoom User. Now, a weird name, but that's what it's showing on my screen, so it's got to be good. And but we see so many of you, and thank you for joining us tonight. Michael will tell you how you can avail yourself and show this to others on YouTube and on Facebook. So, Michael, back to you from not so sunny California.
Beautiful. Thank you, Steve. And ladies and gentlemen, the other thing I'd say is if you're on here for the first time, please on Facebook, if you're on social media, hop on over and look at Neumi New You. That is our official company-run platform where you can see before and after photographs, testimonials, just amazing feedback. And that's the official one that you want to go have a look at after this event. With that in mind, it's always a pleasure being on here. Thank you, Steve.